I've always wanted to be a dad. And thinking back on it, it's all I've ever wanted out of life, really. Not to say that I was one of those little boys who constantly carried around a baby doll or dressed their cat up in doll clothes. I mean, it was the idea of the thing. That two people can have so much love for each other that they can't contain it, and it spills out and into another little life. Perfect composition and representation of both parents. That to me, at a very young age, was a beautiful and miraculous thing. And things most likely would have turned out that way if I was into women. Even so, somehow, by luck, good planning, or just plain old fate, I was able to be the exception to the modern rule. I met a man who wanted all the same things out of life that I do. I fell deeply in love, and we became happily married. My husband Dan and I tried for years to have children. There was a few heartbreaking periods of buying baby clothes that never got used due to adoption that didn't pan out. However, in 3 years' time, we were blessed enough to find a surrogate that was a good ways pregnant with a baby, a boy. She was a hardened, mysterious woman who seemed desperately down on her luck, named Marlene. The doctor said they could tell he's a character, even from the sonograms. His little mouth was always moving. That one's gonna be a talker, Marlene told us. Our little man. We were so happy, thankful. All was right in our little world. Nolan was born without a problem. A whole 8 pounds, 7 ounces, screaming for his papa. Okay, he had a tongue tie that made his cries produce a pa sound, but still, I knew that he knew what he was saying, and he loved me. I loved him instantly. His first years were so fun. First steps, words, and there never seemed to be an end to those, as predicted. His endless Hot Wheel car collection, figuring out favorite foods and colors together. He liked orange best. Everything was what Dan and I had wanted out of our parenthood. The good, and we did get very tired. And all new parents do. Sleep be damned, though. Once I saw those eyes, and besides, Dan worked real hard so that I could stay home with our little one. I loved every second that I got to have with him, and if need be, I could nap where he did. We were so fulfilled that in 4 years, we found ourselves expecting another baby boy. This time, through the adoption process. I just knew that Nolan would be a good big brother. He'd have a little friend forever. Of course, I was right, too. I mean, I knew my boy. He was a wonderful brother. We constantly had to tell him to stop peeking and leaning over the crib so the baby could sleep. He loved to make faces at him and make him laugh. Just want to see him, Papa. He's so cute. The cutest I've ever seen. Having 2 boys was wonderful. I couldn't believe how much time I got taken away from Nolan. Mine, Nolan. Our first son, the carbon copy of my good traits with the attitude to match. I could tell even though he was 4, he noticed it. He took it in stride, though, never getting angry or frustrated with his brother for being an attention sponge. It's important to spend quality, independent time with your children. They always need you, so I decided to amp up our alone time. Go out on Nolan and Papa trips and leave the baby with Daddy. Dan is just a terrific father. You know, the best I've seen in my life, apart from my own grandfather. I knew any and all time spent between the baby and Dad would only be beneficial to both parties. And of course, then I'd get Nolan time. It was this thought process that led us to the flea market one Saturday morning. Nolan's favorite place. He loved going places with me. He'd always make me get fresh pork rinds, even though we both knew they were too spicy for him. He'd lick the dust off and then hold the piece out and pinched fingers as if it was a dirty banana peel. Too spicy, Papa. Don't like it. He said every time, like clockwork. The regular pork rind exchange was taking place as we passed by a new stall. It was full of little figurines and Pokemon, and there were row upon row of Star Wars Lego men. Any person you could think of they have a character for. His eyes lit up at seeing a Darth Vader character. He reached for it, knocking over a B-Wing fighter Lego ship in the process. It broke into pieces as soon as it hit the concrete floor. The stall owner was in a deep conversation with the customer, but shot me a death glare that compelled me to instantly bend down to clean up the mess my little guy made. People are serious about their Star Wars. I picked up the last few pieces and put them on the table. I mouthed, "So sorry," to the owner and gestured that I had put all the pieces on a pile to the left of the table. I then had a thought. Nolan would be starting school in the fall. This would be a good example of how to use good manners and take responsibility for his actions with an apology. Kids would be kids, of course, but I thought the gesture of a child's apology would soften the man a little. I turned around to grab his hand to bring him to the owner, but he wasn't there. My eyes frantically darted back and forth over the rows of stalls. I checked the neighboring stall, calling his name. I wasn't in full-blown panic attack yet, but was approaching one quickly. My eyes stung as tears threatened to invade, leaving my throat dry with a golf ball-sized lump in it. Where was Nolan? It was right here a second ago. What could have happened in 2 minutes that I was picking up pieces to where I couldn't see him? Did someone take my little boy? My mind was racing, and I wanted to yell his name at the top of my lungs. People will look, sure. I mean, that's great. That means that more attention and help finding him. I drew a breath in to scream and noticed 2 little Velcro shoes under the wall of a stall running by. They looked like Nolan's. I turned the corner and cannot tell you the amount of relief I felt when I saw him. He ran up to me, almost breathless, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Dad, there's a cute doggy over there. Come look. I got to pet it." This was new. I was always Papa before, never Dad. My little guy is getting older, I guess, I thought sadly. He wriggled and bounced with glee. I took his hand and followed close, all the while telling him how scared I was and how he should never run off like that. I said how the nice thing to do would be to help me pick up the pieces instead of giving Papa a heart attack. He suddenly came to an abrupt halt, his cute little face becoming overwhelmed with confusion. "He's not here anymore, Papa. Maybe the dog runned it away." I giggled. I secretly loved it when he still said words wrong. I'm so happy that he was okay that I would have given him a puppy myself right then and there if he came across a pet stall. Luckily for my husband, there wasn't one, so I didn't. Besides, I didn't think a surprise new puppy would go over real well with the new baby and all anyway. Dan eventually would have understood, though. Dan was a very understanding person. I arrived home safely. I got him settled and changed for dinner. I was emptying noodles into the boiling water when he ran into the kitchen. "Papa, I'm so hungry. I need dinner. What's that?" I told him that it was his favorite, macaroni and cheese. He turned his perfect nose up and said, "No, what are you cooking for you and Daddy?" He knew that I always made 2 different meals a night, one for him and one for Dan and myself. Nolan normally hated any meat that wasn't a nugget for him. "Chicken fried steak. Now, back up, I don't want you to get splattered." I chided gently, but sternly to let him know that I meant business. He sniffed the air heavily before doing what I asked him to do. "Papa, that smells good. I want the chicken," he said, with big eyes still on the stovetop. Again, giggling, I said, "Hungry bun, that's beef, not chicken. It's just fried like chicken, and I don't know, you hate meat. Every time you say you want to try something that contains meat, it ends badly." I give Dan "What do you want me to do here?" look. He smiled and fixed him a plate of the steak, cut up into tiny Nolan-approved size pieces. "See, John, no big deal," Dan said calmly as he took my hand. I held my breath as I waited for him to finish the first bite. He loved it. The plate was empty in a flash, and he was immediately at the stove to see how much was left. "Papa, that was so good, but I'm still hungry. So hungry." I placed down a plate of strawberries with a cheese stick for him to eat. For our big, growing boy. To my dismay, he sniffed the plate and turned his nose up in disgust. "Yuck! This is gross. I don't want it. I'm hungry." He was starting to whine, and the tip of his ears began to turn red. Sure sign that he was about to start a crying tantrum. "I want more chicken!" The baby started wailing in his room, and Dan was leaving for work, so I took my piece and I cut it up for him. He was acting so strange. Maybe he was getting sick. There were a lot of people with a lot of different things going on in their bodies at that flea market that day. I really hoped he didn't pick up a bug. And better now than when school starts, I guess, I thought. I hope this newfound love of meat was here to stay. I mean, it'd be so much easier having him eat what we ate instead of all the extra meals. Meat was good for you, made your body strong. He was adopting into a long line of meat and potato-loving generations. Hopefully, this is the start of a new eating habit. That night, Nolan turned off his bedtime TV show, abandoning his routine of begging to stay up for just 5 more minutes. Nolan's stuffed bear was tossed to the floor instead of tightly clutched in his arms. He was convinced just yesterday that his bear protected the realm on Nolan's room. I had told him this much when he got it as a gift. In his world of cars, and more cars, he was puzzled to unwrap a funny little gray bear with huge top and bottom teeth. It quickly became his guardian, the king of the teddies. She never did anything in his room without him, but now he was tossed aside as if not holding any significance at all. I said goodnight, and he reminded me again that he was hungry. I promised him that I'll feed him a big breakfast tomorrow. It's so fucking weird, I thought. But if the day had shown me anything, it was that little Nolan was getting older, and getting older meant changing. I darkened his room and left the hall light on, like every other night. Then I checked on the baby in his room at the end of the hall, turning the monitor on before leaving. It had been a day, and I was so tired that I left the cluttered floors and dirty dishes to be tomorrow's problem. I laid on the bed with the TV on, but muted so I could hear if the boys woke up. With all the excitement and events of the day, I must have been more tired than I realized. I woke with my face mushed against my pillow, an island of drool already formed at the corner. I got up to pee and checked the time. Dan would be home in 2 hours. I got back into bed to enjoy more sleep. A warm groove already in place from my previous nap. I rolled over and indulgently closed my eyes. I was just about asleep when I heard a squelching sound. Couldn't quite place it, but it was coming from what appeared to be the monitor. I grunted and got myself back out of my comfy groove in the bed. I needed to check to see that the baby was still okay. He was probably kicking one of his tissue papery-sounding toys in his sleep. Nolan's room was right on the way to the baby's, so I poked my head in to check because I just couldn't resist seeing his peaceful sleeping face. He wasn't in bed. The bathroom light remained off and the door stood open. I knew he hadn't gotten up to use the bathroom. Tried to swallow my annoyance when I realized he must have been in the baby's room trying to play. The squelching sound grew louder the closer I got to his room. I approached, and soon enough, there was Nolan's little butt poking up as he stood on tiptoes bent over the crib. Such a wonderful big brother, always wanting to play. I was about to gently scold him and send him back to bed when he turned around and saw me standing there. There was something horribly wrong with his face. Looked dark, wet. There was a tinge of copper smell to the room, and before my mind accepted it, my gut already told me what I was seeing. The squelching sound grew almost unbearable now with every chew that Nolan took. "Papa, I was so hungry," he said with a mouthful. I fought the urge to pass out, stifle a scream and back away from him. "Oh my God, baby, why? Why? He's just a baby. I don't understand. Jesus, why, Nolan?" The room swirled, and my blood felt like ice. My only fear in life was losing my family, my children, my Nolan. I wanted to run, to vomit, to scream, and shake him until his neck popped. How could this have happened? His brother's only 5 months old, my infant son, our little boy, who was just barely getting a taste for life yet. Nolan paused for a moment and smiled at me with a giggle. "I love you, Papa." And I regretfully realized that I could never resist that face. That little, wet, red, smiling face. He was a bloody mess, sinew hanging from his little teeth, and I didn't see that, though. I saw his first smile as a baby. I saw the way he looked up at me while giving me hugs. The joy on his face when he learned something new. He walked towards me, and I saw my little Nolan running on the beach, trying to keep up with the seagulls. There was only one thing I could think to do. I know now that the child I brought home could not be my son. My Nolan was somewhere else, far away. I know there's only one way I could get him back. To be with both of my sons. I knelt down, and I hugged him, and I stroked his hair, and I kissed his bloodstained cheek. Dad, I'm hungry. I'm so hungry. He threw his arms around me, and he snuggled in. I closed my eyes, and I was ready to be with my boys. All I ever wanted to be was a dad. I closed my eyes, I backed up a step, and I pulled my collar out of the way to offer him my neck. Here you go, baby. Papa never wants you to go hungry. Dan would be home soon. I'm sure he'll understand what I had to do. I mean, after all, Dan was a very understanding person. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I want to tell you thank you so much for watching tonight's video or listening to tonight's episode of the podcast. I really appreciate it, and anytime you guys give me a subscribe or a follow or a like or a comment or literally just a watch, I can't thank you enough for it because you're the reason I keep making episodes and you guys are the reason that I love horror as much as I do. We're in the middle of summer, and I'm from Texas, which means that it's a great time for iced tea. And you know who makes iced tea? My wife. My wife sells tea. My wife sells tea on Etsy.com/shop/ivorymonocle-tea. If you want to get the MrCreepyPasta special, you can order a dark and stormy night and specifically request a dabbing sticker that you only get if you ask for it. And as always, I want to give a very special thanks to all of my patrons at patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta, because you guys are the reasons I get to keep my lights on in the house and get wonderful little treats for my cats and everything like that. And also the reason why we keep getting special custom series just for the channel. So a special thanks to Jacob Shaffer, Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Bryon Arce, Ken Lando Higuchi, Bobby Karman, Tristain Pelton, Chase Burnett, Bardo Hawk 764, TheBananaMafia 1, Melancholy Corpse, Hollow Zero, Ferb, Harley, Billy Morrow, Katie Birch, Sashi Sazaku, Kayden the Spooky Boy, MyBodySoundsLikeRiceKrispys, AshWood, Lord of the Weebs, Jay, Feyelocket, Miss Xandra, MrUnsettlingSpaghetti, Eurogore, Suji Campbell, Marco Takes Dabs 420, Stricken, Ozarine Fox, Robert White, Andres Garcia, Snails Brennan, Legit Quad Feed, James Bruce, Chris Lovins, Freddy Krueger, Tynam, Justin Johnson, Michael Scarborough, Infernal One, James Lowe, Lisa Cottrell, Caspian, Jordan Ells, Hades Nephew, Tater Chip, Acid System, Prozac and Pancake Appreciation Society, Cryptic Nightmares, Someone You Love, Kiri the Sloth, Tommy Green, Sky Harbor, Caleb Dougal, Nina Smith, Nico Kyle, Rafael Rodriguez, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, Trace Miles, Corey Kenshin, and Peaceful Buddha. That's right guys, at patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta, you could join this amazing list of people's names I mispronounce and the list of Patreons down there in the description. But of course, none of that is ever required. I just appreciate you guys subscribing and watching and honestly being here. So, to all of you, sweet dreams.